Off the coast of Italy near Venice sits a small island once used for defense and quarantine. This island now sits abandoned, though locals still hear screams and laughter echoing across the water, and some who try to visit have been scared off immediately. Today, let's discuss one of the most haunted places in the world, Poveglia Island. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the supernatural. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
Hello. Anything that has to do with water. Always feeling helpless. You only do so much.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like on land, there's, I don't know. I got my feet under me. On water?
You feel trapped out there on that island?
I would think so. Yeah.
You think you can swim 2,000 feet? Might be able to make it. I don't know if ghosts can swim, though.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know the rules and regulations. If you're talking about movies, they are down low, kind of sunken a little bit, and then they can pull you under.
That's true, like the dead marshes.
But I just hear that drowning is absolutely it's just painful.
No, I'm not into that. Yeah.
That's not a good way to die. Drowning and probably burning alive, I would say, are the two things you want to try to avoid at all costs in terms of going out of this world, you know? The least peaceful ways.
Terrible. Now, I wonder if ghosts are like bees, and so if you swim underwater, if they just kind of hover above the surface waiting to haunt you when you come up to breathe. But yeah, this is one of the most haunted places in all of the world. If you look up any list, this is usually up there in the top 10, if not the top, 20 or something. But Poveglia Island is fascinating because it has a very colorful history. Last week, we talked about Old House Woods, which also had a lot of history to it. We watched history become folklore, become ghost stories. Here, we have a lot of history that becomes actual paranormal experiences. A lot of people have gone all the way up through modern times. You have ghost adventures going out there, exploring it. So I'm very eager to dive into this one. But as always, before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to Task Force members over at patreon.com/redweb, the supporters that are the fuel in our jetpacks. Fredo, we have jetpacks now. Didn't know if you know that.
I'll be honest. I'm going to be, real with you guys. I don't think those are sanctioned jetpacks. I think they just kind of finagled together. But along with jetpacks, you have other things that are a lot more safe. And over on Patreon, we have the Movie Club Scare-a-thon all month long, doubling up on Movie Club. So we have one every Friday this month. And then, of course, if you're sitting there going, well, I'm probably going to subscribe to the Red Web Guys peeps for a long time, go ahead and get yourself a 10% annual membership. Save yourself a little bit off the top. And then last week's episode, we had Ginger Snaps, and that was a very interesting movie.
Very interesting. We got werewolves in there. That was Jillian's pick.
That was.
Of course, we also had The Descent and The Exorcist earlier this month, and Oddity to come this Friday. That's your pick.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was I thought that was going to be a short episode, but our discussions were long on that one.
It happens.
To discuss about, and it happens very much just like this show. This week, we have our Discord events. For those of you guys that love a little bit of a live event, on October 24th at noon Central Time, we got a horror movie tier list. Let the debate happen. We're going to go back and forth on this one.
All the buff minds, bring out your movies, bring them to us, and we will systematically rate them according to our mad minds. Also this month, we have ghost merch because it is the season of Halloween. So some of that stuff will be temporary as it does lean a little bit more into the Halloween season. But we also have updated baby hands and some other ghost merch that's going to be around year round. So no matter when you want to get it, it will be up there for you. Some embroidered stuff. We got hats, crew neck sweaters, shirts. We got a mug to say a few. We also have the Red Web film posters back up in there. So if you missed out on those, they are available right now for you. And before we dive in, some huge shout outs to some of the supporting task force members over at Patreon. Again, patreon.com/redweb. We have Sriracha or Sriracha, like that name, Greg Wolf, B. Wick, Brett Omura, Zachary Orr, and Jarrett Osborne. Thank you guys so much. And with that, Fredo, let me wind back the clock, take you all the way back into the Italian history of the island of Poveglia. And as we dive into the history of Poveglia, I want to say that some of the historical details vary greatly depending upon the source that you're reading. We've done our best to collate and clarify as much as possible, but it is worth sharing that some of the history here is a bit murky, so years may not be exact. It is considered, like I said, one of the most haunted places on Earth, and it's nicknamed the Island of the Dead by locals. It's a small island in the Venetian lagoon 500 yards from the shores of Lido. It is split by a canal with a man-made octagonal landmass built in 1645, which was used as a fort. To give you an idea of what that looks like, I have a picture of that for you to take a look. Task Force, as always. The pictures will be in the video version up on YouTube and on our social outlets.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, get in there.
Oh, damn.
It's pretty clean.
Yeah, I mean, okay, look, initial thoughts, beautiful water, giant structures with a lot of nice like trees and shrubbery, nature nearby. It looks pretty pleasant.
You're reviewing this like a nice neighborhood, like you're perusing for a house.
Seriously, that's the
I
initial.
this on Zillow.
That's the initial thought here. But then when you think about it, you go, "Oh yeah, I could see my ass running around here." It's
the
just
neighbors are terrifying.
Absolutely terrified. You know, look at that dog, dude. I'm gonna run, get caught on that dog, get pincered in, and it's gonna be bad. Yeah.
Right. You're going to pick up a splinter in your big toe and then you're not running anywhere.
Yeah. Dude, you watch a lot of, I watch a lot of horror movies and I just go, just get into the woods and just sprint full speed. Yeah. You might trip, you might break something, you might smash your head or whatever, but like it could be worse than this killer getting you or whatever. And you never know what he's going to do. You know what I'm saying?
You come out battled and bruised.
Yeah. But you come out
at least
alive.
The ghost didn't get you.
Come out alive.
It's true.
Here it's like, okay, well, it's an island. So
yeah.
It's just like you're just playing hide and seek at that point and just hoping for a miracle.
Right. Hoping for daylight because I think the ghosts are afraid of the light. But, you know, in this lagoon, there are 4 other such structures built around in this area because altogether these octagons were kind of the first defensive system that Venice had. Each of them kind of stationed a fort which had heavy firearms, things of that nature. Ships would have to come through here to get to Venice. Now, this island that we're talking about, this haunted island of Poveglia, it's pretty small actually. It's only 7 hectares of land or 0.03 square miles or 17.3 acres. I don't speak landmass, but I know that that's pretty small. So your game of hide and seek is going to be wild, to say the least.
Yeah, until I start re-hiding in the place that they were seeking. You know what I'm saying?
Dang.
They'll never expect me to go immediately back to where I was.
That's an alpha move. What if the ghost checks every place twice first?
Yeah, I'm going to get caught. Yeah, I'm going to get caught so fast.
So the first people recorded to live on Poveglia arrived in the year 421. So this goes way back, though some sources do say it actually happened a few centuries later. And due to their isolation on the island, they were able to avoid the laws and wars of the mainland. Jumping forward 900 years in 1379, inhabitants were actually forced to leave the island due to the War of Chioggia, which occurred between the Republic of Venice and the Republic of Genoa over a long rivalry for control over trade in the area. Jumping forward yet again 400 years in 1776, Poveglia became a checkpoint for inspection of all goods and people coming in and out of Venice. Boats would have to stop here before arriving at the mainland. Jumping forward just a little bit now into 1793, the island became a quarantine zone when 2 boats arrived carrying people with the plague.
Oh.
This was after all other islands in the area were full, and so then this island too became a quarantine site. Now, this is way after the well-known Black Plague in the 1300s, the 1340s and 50s. Though again, it is worth noting that some sources have actually claimed that Poveglia was used as a quarantine zone for the Black Death specifically, as well as another plague in the 16th and 17th centuries. But a majority of the sources we found did not mention these and only mentioned 1793 as the first instance of this island being a quarantine zone.
I mean, outbreaks in general are just bad. You don't want none of that anywhere.
Oh, they're naughty, dude.
And then it's just an island. I don't, like, Jesus. But I mean, if you are a port for people passing in and out, especially like overseas, like, man, you're just sickness everywhere.
Kind of a hot spot. But because of the isolation, it does make a good place to, all right, we know you're sick. We don't want that to spread. So instead of trying to isolate you in a crowded city, let's ship you over to this island where other people with that illness will be. And hopefully, right, that's the idea, is hopefully that will quarantine everybody and so it doesn't spread and create another disaster like the one back in the 1340s, right?
Yeah, you'd hope, but I mean, good luck.
Mm-hmm. So of course, like I mentioned, Venice had already undergone a huge wave of the bubonic plague starting in 1348. So this time they were much more knowledgeable, a little bit more prepared on how to protect themselves. Even though it had been over 400 years, they're like, I remember that one.
I mean, that's good because, especially nowadays, people forget so fast.
Oh, they do.
I mean, look at like celebrities, gossip or issues or whatever, political stuff. Like things will happen. And then like within a week, it's just people moved on.
Yeah, dude.
People get away with stuff too. People are like, that's a bad person, but they just took a break and came back and they had a huge following. So they're still okay.
Absolutely. I mean, we already had our own little quarantine session just a few years ago, and info around that is already being argued. It's wild.
Oh my goodness.
But either way, let's move on. Poveglia's status as a quarantine location was temporary. It lasted a few years until 1805, though again, sources conflict on the exact year that it stopped serving as a quarantine zone. Suffice to say, it was sometime in the early 19th century. Those sick with the plague were actually brought to Poveglia and other, as they're called, lazaretos in the lagoon area. They were also called lazarets, and these were essentially, like I said, quarantine sites, other islands and hospitals to try to protect from the greater population becoming ill. Now, most sources claim that somewhere between 100,000 and 160,000 people died during this outbreak, but that number has never been fully verified. Not from what we could find. Some even claim that the death toll has been grossly exaggerated and was actually less than 100, so it's a wild spread.
That's a lot. Hundreds of thousands? Oof.
Yeah, 100 to 160,000.
Jesus.
I had to look it up because I was curious. The Black Death, again, the original one, the OG, that outbreak, somewhere between 75 and 200 million people in Eurasia.
My God. I mean, it is the OG.
Yeah, 30 to 50% of the entire the entire population of Europe.
30 to 50?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's how bad it was.
That's insane.
Yeah. So again, not at that scale, but still nothing to be scoffed at.
No, not at all.
So you have all these victims dying from this plague, and bodies were actually left in plague pits, much like, again, the OG, or these kind of mass burial sites. Or at least that's how the legend goes. And some sources say that these pits were routinely burned when they became full. This has led to the claim that the soil of Poveglia is 50% human remains, though, of course, this is a gross exaggeration, mostly due to the stories and presence of plague pits.
I bet, but the body's got to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they decompose that fast.
Yeah, 50%. That's a wild claim, but we couldn't find anything to support it.
Yeah.
But
where else did the bodies go, though? I mean, it's definitely still a wild claim, but it's like, where else did the bodies go?
I don't know.
I guess like less humane, but like do it like mobster style, tie a rock and just like go to the bottom.
Oh, God. Then you do have the dead marshes, and then you don't want to swim. They get you above and below.
Yeah, that's true. I ain't swimming on that.
Yeah. Now, supposedly after the island's use for quarantine, Napoleon Bonaparte took advantage of the small size of the island and used it to store armaments. He also destroyed the San Vital Church in 1806 and turned the clock tower into a lighthouse. Reportedly, some battles took place on or near the island as a result of the armament storage, and so this builds on the history of death and violence and all sorts of things happening on this island that then create the paranormal modern times that we have, you know?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's just an island. You got enough power, even a decent amount of power. I feel like, you could just take it over and start ruling the place, really.
Yeah.
But if someone comes for you, you're kind of surrounded and kind of screwed there. I personally feel like I'd be the person greeting all the ships. You know what I'm saying? I'd be on that dock and I'd be like, do you fear death? You know what I mean? I'd be like, what the hell is going on in this island?
Everyone's all well dressed and everything, but then you come hobbling out unnecessarily worn and haggard. Yeah. Do you fear death? Like, what is he? Where'd that accent come from? Is that English? Now, by 1922, the plague was no longer a concern. So this is a good amount of time, but it's no longer a concern by this point, and Poveglia had become an asylum for people with psychological disabilities. We've seen this happen many times, and we'll talk about some modern-day examples and some examples from previous episodes in just a bit. But suffice to say, this island was actually closed down in 1968, and it has since been abandoned, aside from a brief reopening where it became an assisted living facility that then once again closed down in 1975. So that being said, again, history is murky. We couldn't find a whole lot of information regarding this brief reopening, nor much about this 1975 moment. So again, just for the sake of candor and transparency, it's a little murky here. In fact, some people claim that the island was never a hospital for those with psychological disabilities at all. So we're working with a lot of story meets history. It's, again, a little nebulous. Either way, since 1968 at least, it has most certainly been abandoned. The same buildings from the asylum were used in this assisted living facility, and they're actually still standing to this day, though they are overgrown because they are completely unkept. So if you want, I have a bunch of photos of the island as it sits now. Okay. A lot of these overgrown buildings to look at. Actually, the clock tower that became a lighthouse is in some of these photos. But yeah, let me know what you think.
Oh yeah, this is primo, run down, go and isolate yourself in different places that you shouldn't be doing. And I mean, I'm looking at a tower, multiple floors, run down, dark hallways, and this is a daylight shot, overgrown.
It's very eerie, even in the daytime.
Oh my God, this is eerie. It's massive. And then you just have the woods. Yeah, man, I can see why this is on people's lists. I mean, look at this. It's an island. There's so many trees, and then the buildings themselves. Like, we could do like 10 episodes in this place.
Dude, I would love to go here. And by that, I mean I get one of those iPads on wheels to roll around, and then you go with that.
Drone technology.
I gotta hold it down back here, you know?
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feed you the feed from a drone.
I'm an iPad on wheels. You're a drone.
Yeah, the whole time you're like, where's that buzzing sound? I'm like, I don't know, man. Some kind of ghost static is going on here.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, I mean, this one's really cool. This is a picture of a room. The roof is caved in. But then there's just branches and stuff that are overgrown on top of it, creating kind of like a natural roof.
Yeah, it reminds me of Jumanji.
Yes.
Like when the house gets overgrown and then it starts raining inside.
This is the same thing, but in a hallway. Wow. Yeah, the trees are really just overtaking. They're starting to make their own roof. Yeah, these rundown beds. Jesus. God, there is mold all over this place. I mean, this is pretty beat up. There's like no doors, no windows.
Yeah, this is not coming back.
Like some places we go to, it's like, oh, you have doors and there's windows, and then the doors that are open are like sealed off. Like, this isn't even like, you know, we go to ghost places and there's someone that caretakes for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is just
people watch over it, and
nature has taken over.
Yeah. I feel like someone came through and just took all the doors and sold them across the world and said, these are Italian doors, but they never told them they were from like haunted places. Because there's no doors, there's no windows left on this place, it seems.
Oh, that's scummy. I'd hate to buy an antique door and it's like a haunted door.
Yeah, next time you hear about these antique Italian doors, just be thinking it's probably haunted.
Yeah, no, I ain't gonna mess with that. I ain't gonna mess with it. I'm saying if that thing starts to, you know, you got a tight shot, the door starting, like the doorknob turning and it's starting to creak open, it's gonna be a quick boot to the door, bang, shut. And I'm just gonna start taking an axe to it, chopping it up.
How you gotta do it. Now, multiple sale attempts have been made by the Italian government, but some believe that due to the history and haunted stories that surround this island, it can never be sold. But despite that, in 2014, a wealthy developer named Luigi Brugnaro actually bought the island and planned to create a resort on this island. Let's not forget, it's in a beautiful lagoon just off Venice. It is in a great location. It's not far from society. It is in the water, of course, it's an island, but it's not too far from things. It is actually quite stunning out there. So the plan is not too bad. But as he's going to the island and going through these plans, they were all canceled, but it's unclear what the reasons behind this cancellation was. And many people in the local communities actually opposed these plans, both because they didn't want it becoming a resort, but also many people feared that this island is cursed, that if you put a resort here, that it would only anger the spirits that inhabit the island.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. In fact, there's actually a JW Marriott resort one island north of this. And so I was joking with Jillian. I was like, maybe we do a red web, just laid back, kick back in the Venetian beaches, and then we do a quick swim over, you know, just like in and out real quick.
Or we're laying down, sun, you know, giving us a nice little tan. We got the drinks, and we're just like, wow, look at that. Right over there. It's one of the most haunted places ever.
We got our toes in the sand going, no way.
Yeah, and look at that. Wow. And then just I'm going to walk over to the water. Wow, this water connects to that haunted water over there. Insane.
I'm connected.
Look, I'll try to make content. I'll make it work. I'm not going to touch that island.
I'll give you some binoculars and you can say, I can see it from here. Yeah, no, there's no activity. We're good.
No.
Well, nowadays, the island is, as I said, completely abandoned. The clock tower, the asylum buildings, the housing included, the church, and the hospital all remain standing, but are left unmaintained and overgrown, as you've seen. Now, according to The Telegraph, a headstone on Poveglia from 1793 reads, quote, "Do not dig. Those who suffered contagion in life lie here." And with the history behind us, the ups and downs of the wild history of this island.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Marvel Snap. What is Marvel Snap? Well, Marvel Snap is a card game featuring a ton of Marvel characters and amazing art. There's a new game mode right now called High Voltage, and it's available until October 24th. There are login rewards available until October 26th, and you can try out a new deck and jump into High Voltage while it's available. Man, oh man, the stars have aligned for me. Task Force, I get to talk about Marvel Snap. This is a game where I have over 500 hours in. I have achieved the top rank almost every single season. And at one point, I was in the top 200 rankings for this game. I love this game. It's so much fun, and I play a lot of it. Marvel Snap is an award-winning collectible card game that combines deep strategy, a unique snapping mechanic, which means you get to bet more earnings if you think you have a better chance than your opponent, your favorite Marvel characters, and thousands of unique card art variants created by renowned artists to collect and use. Art is central to Marvel Snap. They have partnered with over 300 renowned artists to create all the unique card art in the game. There are over 2,000 unique card art variants to collect and use in your decks. One of my favorite artists is Artgerm, and he makes amazing covers for modern day comics, and his art is in the game as well. Oh, you want a cute little Doctor Doom playing with Avengers toys? Scotty Young's art is also in the game. Marvel Snap features fast-paced matches. Each game only takes 3 minutes. The objective is to win 2 out of 3 locations by having higher total power than your opponent. Let me tell you, this is so important because it's quick, but not only that, is you and your opponent get to play at the same time. No longer do you have to sit there and wait for your opponent to take forever to do something. You get to play right away. You can build decks with 12 unique cards, no duplicates, so it's very easy to get a deck together. And new cards are released every single week. New seasons every single month, like this month's Venom theme. There's a lot of Venom going on right now in the comics. You got the Venom Wars. You got Venom 3 coming out. And so if you're a symbiote lover like me, we're eating good right now. And frequent events to keep the game fresh and exciting. And right now you can play the High Voltage mode, a limited time mode in Marvel Snap that makes the world's fastest collectible card game even faster. In this mode, there is no snapping, just 3 turns with more energy and more cards to make even bigger power swings. You want to throw down a Big Daddy Hulk? Go for it. You want to throw down Magneto and move your opponent's cards across the game? Go for it. You want to throw down Galactus and destroy the whole entire board? People might hate you, but you can do it. Download the Marvel Snap app now. Available on the App Store, Google Play, and Steam, or visit marvelsnap.com to learn more and jump into the High Voltage game mode while it's available. Woo! I love this game!
This episode of Red Web is also sponsored by Rocket Money. Did you know, Task Force, that over 74% of people have subscriptions that they've forgotten about? I bet if you think about it, you might be part of the statistic. I know I am. With Rocket Money, you don't have to remember every subscription that you have, and you don't have to worry about forgetting any of those because you can see all of them laid out in one place in front of you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For any you don't want, Rocket Money can help you cancel them with a few taps. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate to lower your bills all for you, sometimes up to 20%, which is why I don't mind being honest about all those subscriptions I've forgotten because Rocket Money has got my back. I really appreciate just how easy they make it. They do it all for you, and it's super convenient because I love tracking all my finances. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/redweb. That's rocketmoney.com/redweb. rocketmoney.com/redweb. Let's move now into the paranormal experiences that many people have seen going to this place, have heard in the local communities, because there's some sinister stuff in addition to the plagues and to the fighting and everything. As the story goes, the asylum practices seem to be archaic, like with many psychiatric facilities in this time. Again, I hinted at this before, but we've seen this in our episode on the Pennhurst State School and Hospital, which closed in 1987. Actually, we went there, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
That was a wild location. The other one we talked about was Waverly Hills Sanatorium. This was filled with patients treated for tuberculosis, which I've only just learned was also called the White Plague. This location closed in 1961. And so there's been a lot of hospitals, sanatoriums, things of this nature that have housed the ill, but also have archaic practices which create the foundation for a lot of heightened emotion, which a lot of people attribute to the spiritual or paranormal experiences happening in those locations. Kind of like scars in time, you know, because of the emotions.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it. I mean, it would be a scar in time.
Yeah. Now, in addition to these archaic psychiatric practices, local legend says that one of the doctors in particular, and perhaps the head doctor of the asylum, experimented on the patients, though we don't know exactly what he might have done. Eventually, this doctor then either fell, jumped, or was pushed from a clock tower, all depending upon the source you look at. Some say he fell, others say he went mad because of the patients, and others yet say that the story of the evil doctor is just a myth. It is claimed by some sources that he was overcome by a, quote, mysterious fog, and per British magazine 14 Times, he was, quote, strangled by the mist. It's unclear whether this was a literal fog or more of a psychological fog, or a combination of both.
Yeah, I feel like that's usually, a haunted hospital. There's some kind of story there about just a doctor or that's doing unsanctioned things.
Always, very ghost encounters. I mean, that's a fictional story we covered on Movie Club, but again, it's a pattern we see often.
Yeah.
When we went to Pennhurst Asylum, there was, I'm blanking on his name, but there was a guy that didn't like to be antagonized, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was like Mr. Boss or something like that.
I can't remember the name, but yes.
And Shane, who was at that time running one of the cameras, felt something, I think, on his left side. Anyway, we have that up on our YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. But
I remember. Sorry, it was the King.
That's the King. Yeah. There you go. But yeah, and Christian, you were there. You were helping film and produce that whole thing. You drove us out there at night.
I did.
Bless you. But yeah, that was a wild one. Anyway, coming back to Poveglia, some say that you can still hear the clock tower bells ringing to this day. And what's interesting is that none of the bells actually remain in the clock tower. So where are these sounds coming from? And if so many people are hearing it, it must be coming from something somewhere. We got ghost bells on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, they could haunt various things. Why not a bell? But I guess it'd be like an echo of a bell. Yeah, mimic sounds and stuff.
Now, historically, going back to the patients, not so much people experiencing the paranormal today, but going back to the patients of the asylum and hospital of Poveglia, some had complained at that time of hearing voices, screams, moans, and even laughter during their time on the island. Some claimed that these were the spirits of the past, of many people who had died before them, of the plague, of battles, etc. Though the doctors kind of washed these away, this is just patient symptoms, and so no one really ever listened to this. But in modern times, people can hear laughter, crying, screaming sometimes, echoing across the water. So it's still something that people experience, whether they're there or kind of 200 feet off the coast. There's a town nearby called Malamocco, and the locals there have heard many sounds emanating from the island, even though it is completely abandoned.
All right, well then maybe, just maybe, we don't even want to be across from this island.
Maybe I didn't say that, Maybe I didn't say that, and we just go ahead and book this travel.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe we're already on the plane, and then I tell you this.
I mean, that'd be absolutely upsetting if it's like, oh, I'm on an island nearby, and then all this haunted stuff is bleeding over. Like, God, come on, man.
I think there is a lot of local respect, of course, fear as well, but respect for this island, given the kind of nature of it all, the history of it all. No one wants to go mess with it. No one wants to go over there out of fear, but also like, hey, listen, we're staying over here. It's not crossing to us, this haunted footprint, and we're not going to it. And so that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, and I'm sure like literally everybody even remotely close knows about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, coming back to the patients, they experienced more than just sounds and things. There were times where patients reported that they couldn't sleep because, yes, the sound of crying and screaming and sometimes laughter, but also the visions of shadow people. We did a whole episode on sleep paralysis and how this could be a reason why maybe you can't sleep or why you feel paralyzed at night, but you see shadow people. Very fascinating. Christian gives his whole experience. You give your experience, Fredo. Wild stuff. But I'm curious if that's something that's happening here or if this is just another symptom of the dark history, the ghosts here. Now, there is a very famous ghost on Poveglia known as Little Maria. So Maria was said to be a plague patient that had to be separated from her parents, and she was sent to the island for quarantine. Some sources claim that sightings of Maria have been reported over 400 years. Many reports claim that she can be seen or heard crying on the beach and looking across the lagoon at her hometown of Malamocco. Very heart-wrenching stuff.
It just seems like on this show, it's mostly like ghosts and ghouls that terrify you, haunt you, mess with you. Yeah, but it is a lot more rare to just have like a tortured soul that's lingering in the afterlife. That sucks.
Yeah, there's something about tortured soul spirits that, I don't know, stands out to me. You don't hear often about this type. To your point, you often hear about the ones rattling the cages or banging or stomping, whatever that looks like. But in my experience, there was a time where I was ghost hunting at a place called Michelham Priory. This was in East Sussex, England. My boys strapped me to a bed and then left me alone for an hour in the building. That was scarring. But when I was outside over the moat that they have on property, I was once again by myself. And this is the location, or one of the locations, of the Grey Lady. That's a common name used at many locations, but in this instance, this was another tortured spirit who was looking for her lost son, who had also passed away, unfortunately, here at this location. And man, I gotta tell you, I feel like I've had the most vivid experiences with tortured spirits kind of grieving and going through a pattern. And I kept hearing splashes and it sounded like somebody wading through the moat. But anytime I looked down and flashed my light down on the water, it was like glass. It was dead still. And so there's something emotional, I don't know, to the soul about a tortured spirit. But also in my experience, there's something, I don't know, it's a lot more vivid. And I feel like it's a lot more experiential when you have a tortured spirit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you go from like being completely terrified and afraid to sympathizing a little bit.
Yeah.
Which could lead to a false sense of safety.
You open up to it.
But you really do. You know what I mean? Even someone like myself that's like, no, hell no. I'm like, oh man, like you're in sorrow eternally and you lost a child. Like it's rough for sure.
Yeah. And so you open up to it. And so maybe when you hear something, you don't run from it. And so it's more inclined to have some sort of activity. I don't know. But there are a couple other frequently seen ghosts that have been given names across the internet. Of course, these aren't historic names. These are just the names that people who have shared these experiences have come to name these ghosts. You have Pietro, who is a ghost from a time period when Poveglia was home to an asylum. Both of his legs were amputated, and visitors claim that you can hear his wheelchair rolling through the hallways of the buildings. You have another one named Federico, who is a ghost who is said to always be seen smiling and laughing somewhat sinisterly, which is so deeply unsettling.
That's very unsettling.
I hate that one.
It's like how, should I be running? Should I not be running? How aggressive? Because you don't know the aggressiveness of this type of ghost,
Yeah. It's very, it follows. It's very smile. I don't want to see something looking at me smiling and not doing anything else.
Yeah,
just, it's like, okay, are you like Raptor number 1 and I'm about to get blindsided by a ghost to the side?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Clever girl.
Is it Muldoon?
Yeah, I think so. The hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, finally, we have Giorgio, who is known to be the only friendly ghost. Thank God there's one, but the only friendly ghost on the island. Though, looking at the stories, it's not necessarily clear why or what makes him so friendly, but he's often referred to as a friendly presence. This episode of Red Web is also sponsored by Built Rewards. Listen up, task force renters of the world. Ever feel like you're stuck in a loop of rent payments and you're just watching your money vanish into thin air? I know that feeling. It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards, and that is where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent every month. Pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in, baby. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards flight or hotel stays with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotel and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them toward a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rewards through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/redweb. That's joinbilt.com/redweb. joinbuilt.com/redweb. This episode of Red Web is also sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes and getting all spooky, but some feel like they wear a mask and hide more often than they would like to admit, perhaps at work, in social settings, around the family. And therapy can help you learn about accepting all parts of yourself so you can take off that mask and feel more comfortable in your own skin, because masks should just be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. This is what I really appreciate about BetterHelp. It makes therapy much more accessible to someone who might find it more daunting. I know I can personally relate to that experience, but therapy is a helpful tool for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries, empowering yourself, and enabling yourself to be the best version of you. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your unique schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Take off that mask and visit BetterHelp at betterhelp.com/redweb, and you will get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/redweb. But with that, I want to move into kind of the consistent sightings and some of the modern day sightings on this island, because as I had mentioned, locals continue to say they hear screaming, crying, and laughing coming from the island. Some sailors refuse to let their boats get too close to Poveglia for fear of bad luck or perhaps experiencing something they don't want to. And even if you wanted to try to visit, very few people are willing to sail to the island for you, both because it's haunted, but also because now it is privately owned. Those who have visited the island hear the same voices and complain about an overwhelming sense of dread. And despite being privately owned, there was a group of American tourists from Colorado who found someone, just some brave soul, willing to take them to Poveglia in 2016. The group wanted to do a classic overnight ghost tour, lock themselves in perhaps, but definitely spend the night on the island. However, not long after they arrived, and I'm talking a very short period, they were back out on the shore crying out for help, screaming back to the boat to be rescued. They claimed when they were picked up that ghosts had pushed and attacked them, scaring them back out onto the beach and off the island. And that is one of the most recent experiences we have on record. But many other visitors have reported being touched by an unseen force and even scratched and pushed. Some have even seen eyes in the water, faces in the windows of the buildings as they pass by. And according to The Travel, which is an online travel guide, when restoration attempts were made on one of the buildings, of course it's overgrown and everything was going to be very difficult, but the reason they gave for the construction crew ending so abruptly was simply that the ghosts scared them away. Nobody wanted to work on the island. And I was curious if there was a more practical solution. Was it too dangerous? Was it maybe just fully not up to code? But any reason we could find came down to the paranormal.
Because I'm a vivid thinker.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining you guys setting up equipment, and I just feel like, if I was in a situation where I felt like there was a ghost around me, I don't think if you guys were to look over, it would look heroic or flattering in any way. It would just look like me wailing my arms around, trying to very poorly shadow box this thing away from me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one's ever gonna look flattering or badass.
No.
I feel like I'd be trying to swat a fly, but with my fist, and it would just look terrible. And I'm like, guys, hey, get off me! Get over me! And then you can just see me flailing around, like not cool in any way, shape, or form. at all.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it'd be like swatting flies that no one else can see. I think the only person, let me just put this out there, that could maybe look cool shadow boxing and fighting a spirit, Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that guy knows how to move, how to dodge, how to punch a few ghosts, right, where it's going to hurt him.
Yeah, that's a man's man.
Yeah, I think actually he steps in the room, the building becomes exorcised.
He's on the ground, dude. He's doing jujitsu moves. That guy's won tournaments and stuff. He's badass.
He just casually walks in and wins a tournament.
Yeah.
He's not like making big news about it. He's not being flashy about it. He's humbling himself to the sport and going for it. I got to give huge respect.
Exactly. And so that's, hey, you can only, you go with what you instinctively know. So try a couple of jiu-jitsu moves.
Man, just ground grappling a couple of ghouls.
Just try something. There's no proper book out there.
Absolutely not. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, here we're coming to a close, but when Ghost Adventures, a very popular ghost hunting TV show, got me through college, middle school, high school, everything in before, man, I love the show. They actually visited Poveglia. Zach Bagans actually claimed to be possessed by a ghost, even becoming aggressive toward another crew member. And again, all due respect to Mr. Bagans here, but I feel like 8 times out of 10, he's getting a little possessed, getting a little aggressive, but I feel like I have to see this episode now. I don't know if I've seen this one, so I need to go watch it.
I've seen a couple, and it's very like, it's TV.
Yeah.
I'm possessed. Yeah. It's like really just like, it's they full send it,
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's 2 schools of thought. There's one, which is, and I've heard and seen a lot about it, that it's pure entertainment, that it's all kind of scripted and elevated, which is, I understand that. Then there's the other side, which is more of the believing side, which is Zach is just so open to these spirits and so comfortable in these environments and so eager to give a proper investigation that he allows himself perhaps to be taken under by these ghosts. But it's always a ghost that wants to punch a wall, is what I noticed.
It's a signature move.
It is a signature move. You know what? Zach Bagans, Tom Hardy. That way the spirit can have a physical form to fight Tom Hardy. Zach just goes, going ghost, and then he like transforms. And then they fight. You know what I mean?
Like Danny Phantom style? Like,
yeah.
Is that what this is?
We're talking Disney Channel's Danny Phantom.
Look, anything is up on the table for reference here on the show. At any point in time.
But also, Danny Phantom was Nickelodeon.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
I had to look it up because I was like, I forgot. But it was, and we're going to leave it just the way I said it. Now, as we come to a close, this is, again, one of the world's most haunted spots. A lot has gone down on this island. Whether you believe or not, it has left a lot of people with stories to tell. It has left great impressions on investigators and locals and passersby galore. And since 2004, this is a very interesting note here. Archaeologists looking through the area have actually unearthed over 1,500 skeletons just 2 miles away at the very first lazaretto. So this is one of the family of quarantine locations, right? So it's incredibly likely, given the proximity, given the similar history, that this island, Poveglia, could be home to just as many bodies, if not more, which again support the historical claims of death and perhaps even the paranormal on this island. To me, it's got everything that every other paranormal's hotspot has had. It's got every piece of that recipe in spades. And that is the ghost island of Poveglia.
Damn, an island. I was just like thinking about, being on that island, because we've done ghost hunts, but not on an island, That's a whole nother beast.
I don't know how I'd feel, because there's a psychological element to your point of being trapped, feeling trapped, not being able to go too many places. And again, 0.03 square miles, I just think about it in, okay, that means I run that direction for maybe 2 minutes, and then I run 90 degrees for 2 minutes.
Right.
And that's the landmass. If that.
And that's it. Like,
I mean, maybe even way less.
I feel just boxed in, really. Here's a question for you. And then I'll pass it off to Christian. $25,000 you spend a night there.
I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping like a baby on that island.
Christian, 25 G's. I didn't even finish the sentence. Damn.
$25,000 for the night?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
No.
What?
That is
I'll
not
take his.
nearly enough. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
take
I'll
that
take
money
it.
Two
and do
nights.
what you want with it. That is not nearly enough for me.
All right, Fredo, run the numbers on him.
15 G's. You do that, Trevor?
Lowering it?
No, I mean, just take out of your mind that 25 was offered. It was 15.
Listen, you knew at the top of this episode I said I kind of want to go to this island. So I
Yeah.
feel like my buy-in is going to be pretty low out of a morbid curiosity. And honestly, this is how it goes for me. In the daytime, I'm like Superman. The sun's hitting me. I got all the strength in the world. The sun sets, fear rises. Okay. And so like,
Yeah.
if you cut that check and I cash it and then you send me to the island, there's going to be a lot of bubbles of regret happening, but I'll go through with it. But if I'm making the decision off the coast at dusk, we might have I don't know, we might have a different threshold, but I'll do it. Yeah, 15. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're eager to get there already. I feel like if I just opened a suitcase and had 15 grand, I'm like, hey, we're going to leave. If you want to stay, we'll come pick you up in the morning. I feel like you'd be like, yeah I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
40,000, Christian?
40,000 for one night.
One night. You're by yourself.
But you have to live in a tent inside the place.
That's what I was gonna ask.
yeah.
Where on the
Just like
island?
Oddity.
A tent inside. Ooh, no.
That makes it so much worse.
It does make it so much worse, dude.
Yeah, it drove up the price by quite a bit.
It really made it so much worse to have to be in a tent. Oh my God.
You have to be in the tent, but you also can't peek outside the tent no matter what you hear.
No, I got to get that evidence. I'm chasing sounds and rolling chairs. And,
Terrifying, man. Terrifying.
yeah. Fredo, how about you? 25. You doing it?
25. Yeah.
Okay.
I
A
think
very long, reluctant, definite yes.
It's very reluctant. Very reluctant. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're talking $25,000 not taxed or pre-taxed already, sure.
Listen, I feel we go out there, we get a little bit of evidence, we become world famous, and then we pitch a new show to recoup more losses from afar. Instead of Love Island, it's Haunted Island. We put, 16 single hot individuals out there on the island with a couple of ghouls, and we just see what happens.
Just start crossing over like reality TV genres, man.
Yeah,
And
Love
then
Island Adventures.
you gotta find, and then you just add in Survivor. If you find the immunity idol, you get off the island.
Absolutely. Yep. If it gets too spooky for you, you better find the idol because that's the only way out. All right. Well, it's good to end on an upswing there of goofs because Poveglia Island is definitely an eerie location. Like I said, if I was actually facing down this island, I would probably feel a little reluctant to want to get over there.
Right.
But when it's broad daylight, I'm very interested.
brave
I'm
as
very
hell.
compelled. It's the mystery. I got to go. But yeah, this has been Poveglia Island, one of the most haunted spots in the world.
I think it holds its name.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of, every place is the most haunted spot in the world. I feel like this, just because of the location and how it's set up, I think it earns like a top spot for, you were telling me earlier, it's in a lot of top lists. Like top 10, top 5. And yeah, no, for sure. This is a unique one.
It's a very cool one. And like I said last week, I love when history melds into the stories because I love a ghost story, but I also love a little bit of history. And when you can see, again, that origin story of where the ghost stories come from, and you can see it written in time, there's something very cool about that.
It adds more depth as opposed to just like this was a house and there people lived there. It's like, well, hundreds of people came by. There was a plague that struck everyone. Like, yeah, man, this I could see this being a hot spot. And look how abandoned it is and how unique it is.
Absolutely. Well, Task Force, we are coming up on our last episode here in October, and then we have Halloween. It is our time. We are stretching our legs and feeling fine. But I hope you enjoyed this eerie episode, this particularly spectral one. But with that said, Fredo, I'll see you back here next Monday for yet another mystery.